Hi, hello. So, I want to talk about youth. Being young, having your entire life ahead of you and the world in your hands. So, I'm just Alec, and the wings of adolescence are still fresh for me. As I have grown up in today's society, I've noticed some pretty uncomfortable things that are normalized for teenagers and kids. The main thing that I found is that there's an overall obsession with these really core developmental parts of your life, and also the problems with adultification, which is making a kid grow up before they're ready or making them seem older than they actually are. And lastly, exploitation. So teenagers are constantly in the spotlight. We have coming of age films and plenty of them that are very, very popular. There seems to be this obsession with these core developmental times of people's lives. You're so impressionable, and a lot of these films have very traumatic themes, like fighting for your country and almost becoming a martyr, just hanging out with your friend and literally dying. They have me feeling some big feelings at a young age. And it's good that they show the aftermath of these characters dealing with these things, because I feel like it makes the generation that's watching them to be a lot more emotionally conscious. There's this genre with endless amounts of movies and TV shows centered around teens and children. Obviously, TV is not supposed to be realistic, but I can't help but think that I'm not alone in this when I say that I thought my teenagers were going to be a lot more interesting. I grew up on Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, so I was bound to get a fantasy ideal for how I would be and how life would be as a teenager. I thought that I would have plenty of time with my friends, going out every weekend, but really it was full of stress and over dramatics. There would be some fun and memorable moments, but it wasn't at all like I thought it would be. And that's okay. The concept of these are the best years of your life trope really feeds into this, because we always portray that the parents in these situations are boring and have nothing to look forward to in their lives, while there's children and teenagers running up their own web show, becoming actors, becoming pop stars, just living these once in a lifetime opportunities. I always thought that I would have lost my youth by the time I turned 20 or even 18, because it seems like you have more freedom before you become an adult. And part of that is true. Like, you aren't expected to work a regular job and dress and act a certain way. But as an adult, you have money and more free time in order to do things that you've always wanted to do. But it really depends on your situation, though. And then there's romance. Romance is its own genre in coming of age movies. The adolescence genre made the love triangle. The number of times that I watched Twilight and thought, I can't wait until someone loves me like that, and then I realized how toxic that was. Romance constantly being the plotline in so many TV shows and movies for children is just so weird to me. And on top of that, there's always a sexual theme. Like, there either has to be a love triangle or just kids going at it. And they have these adult actors who portray them so that they won't get in trouble, but it's just so bizarre to me that people are okay with this. The love triangle trope was the main plotline in the 2010s. Twilight, The Host, Hunger Games, Divergent. Was Divergent one of them? I never watched those movies all the way through. It was probably one of the most dramatic parts of the stories, even though the rest of the plot was made to be more intense. Hunger Games did this a little better because it focused more on Katniss's development as a person rather than just her romantic relationships. But Twilight's main plot was the love triangle, and the danger was pretty much an afterthought or a result of who Belle was with. I think these movies putting such an emphasis on relationships and the big question, who will she choose, is just so lazy. Like, they're fighting for their lives. Do you really think they're focused on who's hotter? And I understand the concept of having someone help you get through hardships and becoming a better person as a result of that, but they usually don't portray it that way. It's more like, we're both going through something traumatic and we're the same age. I think you're hot. Let's rely heavily on each other because we have no normalcy in our lives. What's the attachment style gonna be today, kids? Going through horrific things with someone and relying on each other isn't toxic in itself, but showing two people who hang on to each other and one of them is very possessive and jealous and creepy is not it. Anyways, I have a lot of problems with these movies, but they're still close to my heart. I could honestly talk about this for an hour, but we gotta move on. So, as a society, a capitalistic society at that, We value being young. Youth is rooted in what someone can produce, what we can be for someone or something else. Young workers mean more production and the longer that you can have someone work for you. Companies need young people in order to come up with fresh ideas or do hard labor. There's an endless supply of products that are supposedly ways to make you look ageless that people spend thousands of dollars on. Youth is monetized. Youth is a business. Youth itself, or staying young, is one of the most profitable things on the market. And of course, it's important that you take care of yourself. However, we are supposed to age. It's okay to age. Women especially are demonized for just aging because they can't be as easily sexualized, when really all it comes down to is genetics and or money. We have celebrities that get older and are constantly told that they age well. They don't age well. They have money for serums and diets and surgeries. People use product after product to make them look young because once you're old, you're seen as someone who cannot give in society, so you're deemed worthless and left to rot away from everyone else. And on the other side, we have teens and young adults trying to be young for as long as possible. I think a lot of that has to do again with the glamorization of teenage years in comparison to how life is like as an adult. The physical expectation of teenagers, especially girls, are tied to this. There's this trend of marketing to young girls that is just so predatory. Girls are conditioned at a young age to think that they have to look good and put effort in their appearance, usually for boys. There's a huge focus on looks. Girls are expected to shave and be completely hairless, with long hair on their heads and slim eyebrows. There's less of a focus on grooming for boys, but constantly an expectation to grow up physically and emotionally. Masculinity is a lot more open to just let your body do its thing. There aren't many expectations when it comes to personal hygiene and grooming yourself. Boys are expected to be juvenile for as long as they want, but on top of that, they're forced to hide their emotions. And that in turn allows them to have a certain kind of humor and allow certain actions to pass, but will leave emotionally stunted growth in them. Does that make sense? Boys are expected to be juvenile for as long as they want, but on top of that, they're forced to hide their emotions. Well, I've noticed that feminine presentation is almost directly linked to being a child, and it's weird. Being hairless is the trait of a child, and there's this whole thing of wearing too much makeup because it's bad or ugly to men, but really I think it's because it can make you look older. And young children trying to look older is also not good. Let kids be kids. Grouping that in with preferring submissive women that are homemakers and don't usually speak their minds, I'm just saying, if a man prefers a hairless woman with little to no makeup, submissive, short, etc., and let men have emotions, we're not in the dino age where strength is everything. So, back to Twilight. I know, but it's just for a minute. I was in middle school when I was reading the books and watching the movies. I only watched Breaking Dawn in the theaters when it came out because I was too young when the other movies came out. But I was Team Edward. I knew from a mile away that she'd choose him, but I always thought that Jacob was more attractive. Now, Jacob, played by Taylor Lautner, was only 15. 15 when he was in the first movie. Now, he took off his shirt a lot more in the sequels, but he was still very much underage. There was this obsession of showing off his body and showing how attractive he was, and not only teenagers were noticing this. He looked older than 15 because he was built. Dude was jacked, but that does not make it at all okay. I mean, it's a movie about people in high school, so have you no shame. There are videos of his body progressing from his Shark Boy and Lava Girl days to Twilight, and it is very uncomfortable. It's called out more when age progression is pointed out in girls, but we need to consider this in boys too. He was basically just a sex object, and the amount of muscle this guy had to gain at 15 is crazy. I'm pretty sure that messed up his body. Expecting men to be so muscled and sculpted at an early age is toxic. It's unhealthy. Sexualizing boys at a young age is grooming. It's gross, and we shouldn't do it unless you're actually that person's age. This is why people undermine assault in boys, because they are so used to boys and men being comfortable and expressive in their sexuality that they don't see them being taken advantage of as assault. Teenagers should simp over teenagers. There's nothing wrong with boys being shirtless, but when we normalize adults participating in praising this, it's weird. Right now, there's a focus on praising women to be confident in their sexuality and expression with their own bodies, which is great for adults, but pressures young women to do the same. There's a rise in girls wanting to start at OnlyFans, which is great on its own. I love it when people make money doing what they want to do, especially since women are so demonized for doing anything like this. The problem is when girls are growing up wanting to start one and are counting down the days until they can. I blame this on capitalism. Surprise, surprise. Because it is a great way to earn money. It's hard to get a stable job that pays enough, so using this website is the best option for some people. Women are sexualized enough with creepy men counting down the days girls like Billie Eilish turn 18. Girls in schools are expected to cover up their shoulders and legs while boys can wear whatever they want. As soon as a girl starts developing, she's more likely to be sexualized. This feeds into that culture. I just think that it's predatory for people to encourage teenagers to consider making an OnlyFans in the future. On top of puberty and girls being sexualized, there's a certain body type that's been showcased in the positive sexuality movement. Is this an accurate name? I don't know. The body crazy, curvy, wavy, big titties, little waist, which is amazing. Black women get shit for literally just existing in their bodies. I love you, Megan. Having a big butt was so demonized until now, and it's great to see that it is not the case anymore. This body positivity is great for the black community because caricatures of bodies of black women are constantly being used as humor. On top of that, black girls are often seen as an age older than they are because of their body type. For example, big thighs and a big chest runs in my family, which is perfect for me. But I feel like people always thought that I was older just because I looked developed. It's a very uncomfortable thing to go through at an early age. Now, imagine being dark-skinned. Dark-skinned girls are way more likely to be seen as older than light-skinned girls. While it's great to promote different body types, we shouldn't forget that curvy body types are often over-sexualized and are thought of as older than other body types. People will think black girls are older because their bodies are not the same as the white girls, who people are conditioned to seeing as young. Stop shaming girls for having bodies and start holding boys and men accountable for how they look and interpret them. Black girls should be able to have a childhood as much as anyone else without having to worry about pedophiles. With the constant theme of aging teenagers more than they are for the sake of sex appeal, racism, and colorism are definitely a part of this. Black girls and black boys are constantly seen as an age older than they are. Black women are known for having curves. Black boys can be tall and muscular, and that can get them mistaken for being an adult. Light-skinned children, even if they are as developed as a dark-skinned child, will be seen as younger. Dark skin is attributed to older age. Black girls are expected to put up with this on top of being seen as more masculine, which also ages them in society's eyes. Black girls are expected to survive off of less affection and get less chances to make mistakes purely because they're expected to know better and do better. Why? Black girls aren't ready for adulthood just because they are subjected to the horrors of life earlier. If anything, black girls should be treated the softest because of what they go through within their own community and with everyone else. Same with black boys. Just because he's tall and black doesn't mean you should be intimidated by him. Black boys and black girls are seen as more aggressive and angry than other children. This stereotype follows you for the rest of your life. There are harsher punishments for talking out of turn or being in fights, physical or otherwise. Black children are subjected to police brutality without a question, while white children are more likely to be treated with respect. There are so many problems that stem from racism alone that adultification is practically a way of passage for black children. Be careful with the standards you set for people. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to something real quick. So I noticed that a lot of these shows and movies that are geared towards teenagers have a lot of sex scenes and just like sexual themes throughout them. And because they have actors who are of age and older playing these characters, it's normalized and it's not really looked down upon. And there's also the fact that teenagers are going to be curious, so they're not going to be innocent creatures their entire lives. So of course there's supposed to be education and awareness for them. But what makes me uncomfortable is the fact that these shows and movies were filmed by adults, written by adults, and put out into the world for teenagers and or adults to consume. Because there's TV shows like Euphoria who are rated R that, even though this show is about teenagers and tells a story that's not really meant for adults, it has all of these scenes that are graphic and honestly not suitable for younger audiences. And it's just the fact that if we had people playing characters that were their age, like if we had actors that played characters that were their age, this wouldn't be happening because it would be against the law. But because they have
adults playing these characters, it's normal, or at least normalized. I just think that there should be a better way to go about this, because constantly having older adults write out these stories and people act them out and put them out into the world kind of plays into sexualizing teenagers. Like, you can write a story that like implies something happened without graphically showing it. That's just my 2 cents. I also want to point out the other spectrum of this, infantalization. This will lead us into our next segment. Asian women are especially subject to this phenomena. There is media that portrays Asian women as submissive and childlike and helpless, yet still at the sexual whims of a man. I don't want to talk too much on this because I feel like it's not my place to go into much detail, but it definitely needs to be talked about. These expectations of women portray them in a way that fits a certain male fantasy. It's led to deadly violence. Feeding into the stereotype and not ever discussing how it can be harmful will only create more allowance for things to happen. Asian women deserve to be respected just as much as anyone else. They deserve to be treated their age, and if they want to be cared for, that's great, just don't force them into a box that is preferable to you. This fetishization of Asian women feeds into assault culture. I'll leave some videos below if you want to learn more about that. So as I was growing up with my little creative, idealized mind, I looked up to kids on TV. I really wanted to be a star because I thought it looked so fun. I'm sure other people wanted that too. When you get older, you see these stories about how children were treated on the sets of these shows and movies, and it makes you wonder how this goes under the radar. Part of it is money, but also it has to do with predators being allowed near children and child stars being seen as disposable. Once you look too old, you can't be a child star, right? The abuses that children, literal kids, go through just so we can have entertainment is disgusting. Jeanette McCurdy has talked about her problems with eating while she was filming iCarly, while playing this character whose personality was practically centered around eating. Demi Lovato went through problems after being at Disney and thankfully was able to get help for them. And can we also just talk about movies that are just literal pedophilia? On top of regular shows, there's some movies that just don't hide their exploitation of kids. The most recent one being Cuties, the movie about a girl figuring out her relationship with her own sexuality and how it ties into her religion and the promotion of sexualization of girls in media. Sounds like a good movie, right? Now, on paper, this is a great idea. It most definitely was not in practice. This was heavily filmed through the eyes of a very horny man. It was just disgusting. It was like asking the girls to dance in the most provocative way possible in order to get, I don't know, the approval of pedophiles. If they had done it in a less exploitative way, this movie would have been good. Like if they didn't have the camera focus on children's privates. That would have been a choice. The movie was basically the exploitation of girls is bad, so here we are doing exactly that to show you why it's bad. That's like saying abusing animals is bad, and then you just show an hour and a half of someone beating up animals. They should have just interviewed girls and asked about their experiences and put that together, because I'm sure they would have found someone willing to talk about how different media affects them and how they've been pressured to act one way or another. Other examples of this would be Lolita. Need I say more? Lolita is similar to Cuties. Now, I haven't read the book, but I heard that it was flat out just not promoting a relationship between a grown man and a child. The movie, however, was definitely romanticizing it. The movie is also on Netflix, so, are you trying to say something, Netflix? Like, I haven't watched it recently, but when I did watch it, it very much gave me Cuties vibes. It, really focused on different parts of her body, and even though it showed her literally acting like a child, and that was like showing you, hey, this is a literal child staying with a man, there were still moments where it was just very off-putting, and even though it seemed like they were trying to show you it was wrong, they were still enforcing it in some way. That's just my opinion. It might not even be accurate, but that's just how I saw it while I was watching it. So, what did we learn today, kids? That capitalism is a source of many problems, children should be allowed to be children, and people hate the elderly. Don't think that your teenage years are going to be the only times that you can have fun, because it's not. Definitely have fun, be a kid while you can, but don't expect your skin to sag once it's midnight on your 18th birthday. It's an emotionally turbulent time in your life, so expect to make mistakes, have some experiences, and make some memories. And stay within your age group. Don't be around adults even if they tell you that you're mature for your age. They're just trying to manipulate you. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me talk about things that make me uncomfortable. Have a great day, night, rest of your life. Yeah, thanks. Bye. And for the extra thank you of watching this all the way through, I'll show you some of my favorite coming of age movies. Breakfast Club, classic. I didn't like how they treated my favorite character at the end. Her style was perfect, you didn't need to change that, but otherwise it's a really good movie. They have a deep conversation, it's fun, cool little dances, classic. Moonlight is also one of my favorites. It's about a gay man and his troubles in life as he's growing up, a gay black man. Intersectionality is important. It's a really good movie. I love it a lot. It's one of my favorites. Highly recommend. Lady Bird, it's more of a familial relationship. I thought it was really good, and Saoirse Ronan is amazing in it, so please watch that. It also has some religious trauma in it. Juno, the love of my life, Elliot Page, just freaking killing it. It's a really good movie. It's one of my comfort movies, makes me really happy. Girls are conditioned at a young age to think that they have to look good and put effort in their appearance. Appearance? What is that word? Because they can't be as easily sexualized. I said easily. Come on, man. It's ruining my lighting. Toughness is everything. Okay, I think that's it. I gotta get ready for class.